The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
I believe that we should introduce articles of impeachment. This is a very sad day, I think, for our country. It's something that I would hope we could have avoided, but the president's actions made it necessary. You cannot violate the Constitution in full view. The facts are clear. They were presented by the people who had access to the situation. Facts are clear. The Constitution is clear. The president violated the Constitution. And so I think it is important for us to proceed. If we were not to proceed, it would say to any president, any future president, whoever she or he may be, Democratic or Republican, that our democracy is gone. The president is king. He can do whatever he wants in violation of the law, in ignoring the acts of Congress, undermining our system of checks and balances.
See, that's the issue, right? Isn't that the issue? The issue is that in clear, plain sight, Donald Trump breaks the law, admits to breaking the law. Rudy Giuliani breaks the law, tweets that he's still breaking the law. And it is our job to say that you can't break the law. And it's really that simple, that the president is inviting foreign help into our elections again, that Rudy Giuliani, idiot boy, is in Ukraine right now doing exactly what the quid pro quo is. Telling Ukraine, he tweeted this yesterday, he was tweeting to the United States of America, and he was telling the people in America that he was over in Ukraine shaking down dirty Ukrainian prosecutors, dirty Ukrainian KGB agents in Ukraine, that he was sitting with them and tweeting out pictures of him sitting with them in order to get dirt on Biden, which is the quid pro quo. So, I mean, listen, I'm just glad Rudy is not under investigation for murder. I'm glad the president isn't under investigation for murder, or else they would go on a killing spree to prove that they're not murderers. This is mass madness, I mean, here you have an allegation that corruption in Ukraine meant to the president the Bidens. And that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. But now you have Rudy in Ukraine trying to dig up dirt on the Bidens. And if that seems insane to you, it's because you're not Rudy Giuliani. If it seems insane to you, it's because you're not Donald Trump. It even seems insane to Matt Gaetz, who said last night it was weird that Rudy Giuliani was in Ukraine.
Let's deal with the new fact. Rudy Giuliani, we presumptively now, in Ukraine, meeting with people. You can talk about the company that he's keeping. I'm not really that interested in it. But he puts out a tweet that says what's on the screen. If you can't see it, I'll read it right now. He says, Schiff's impeachment is a farce because, one, there was no military aid withheld.
Oh, my God.
Two, the conversation about corruption in Ukraine was based on compelling evidence of criminal conduct by then VP Biden in 2016 that has not been resolved, and until it is, will be a major obstacle to the U.S. assisting Ukraine with its anti-corruption reforms. Congressman, is Rudy Giuliani saying, if it wasn't clear enough already, if Ukraine doesn't do what we want on corruption, which is Biden, as is clear in his tweet,
right,
you're not getting help from the U.S.?
I think it's fair to say that you've got to engage in anti-corruption efforts in order to get anti-corruption assistance. But I'll be honest with you, Chris, I think it's a little weird that Rudy Giuliani's over in the Ukraine right now. And I'm not here to defend Rudy Giuliani. There's apparently an investigation going on, and that'll go where it goes. But the Rudy Giuliani I know is the Rudy Giuliani who, fought the mob when it wasn't a popular thing to do. He's someone who put his life on the line in 9/11. And so if there's anyone that ought to maybe get the benefit of the doubt, it would probably be Mayor Giuliani.
I don't think Giuliani's the problem. It's who sent him, Congressman. Who's paying him?
Hello.
Why is he there? If this is just a logical extension of foreign policy, as you guys argue all this was about, then why is Mayor Giuliani involved at all?
I don't know.
You must know,
I take
because
good
you need
comfort
to
in the
argue
testimony.
it to defend the president. You must know.
Yes, you must know. You have to have the answer to that question, Matt Getz from Florida. You must have the answer to that question. Now, I will tell you that Rudy Giuliani yesterday tweeted out that that the trip that he was on to deal with these dirty Ukrainians, and I'll tell you who these dirty Ukrainians are. One is a KGB agent. Seriously, went to KGB school in Moscow and is the father of a murderer. And the others, one other one that he met with just got arrested today. I mean, listen, this is so sick, but Rudy Giuliani made the direct connection between Donald Trump and himself in this tweet. He called the trip to Ukraine to dig up dirt on the Bidens, quote, work being done by a lawyer defending his client. So he's saying that Donald Trump is his client. So that's important. Okay? And the other part of his tweet said, and this is devastating, this might be his insurance policy, quote, the President of the United States, I can tell you this, is asking for this. So that is a direct connection between the White House, the President of the United States, and Rudy Giuliani, who is meeting with some of the most corrupt Ukrainians from the old regime. He had a confab yesterday, and he's been tweeting out photographs with a pro-Russian Ukrainian member of parliament named Andriy Derkach. He is a former member of Viktor Yanukovych's Party of Regions. He insists that Paul Manafort was set up, right? And also a guy named Kulyk, Konstantin Kulyk, who is also a notorious corrupt Ukrainian official. Obviously, he's meeting with Mr. Lutz, and he's meeting with Viktor Shokin. And he's tweeting out these photographs of himself. He has an active interest in doing the quid pro quo. He is literally tweeting out, hey, Ukraine, no assistance by order of the president. The president is asking for this unless you announce an investigation into the Bidens ahead of the 2020 election. What is wrong with this man? Again, let's just be grateful I don't know what it is. Are they just being in your face? Or can't they stop themselves from committing crime? I don't know. But there is a photo yesterday of Rudy with a Ukrainian stooge named Andrei Derkach, whose father is a murderer. And Andrei attended KGB school, seriously, the KGB School of Higher Learning or whatever they call it. And he has an ultra serious, I have the goods. You know, here's the smoking gun face, right? He's sitting there. And he looks like one of those lunatics holding up like a Bigfoot poop that he found in the woods as evidence that Bigfoot exists. Do you know? I mean, it's so either they're living in a fantasy world, him and Trump, or the enough of the Republican base is living in a fantasy world that it's okay for them to pretend it's real. I don't know if they've done so much disinformation that they believe their own disinformation, but this is like fantasy paradise where Rudy and Donald are, revered as gods. This world of disinformation. I mean, this is like their fantasy world. Okay, you want to hear what their fantasy world is? The streets are clean because Adam Schiff and Nancy Pelosi have cleaned them with a toothbrush by order of the President of the United States. I mean, this is sick. This is really twisted. And by the way, Rudy Giuliani is using an unsecure phone. I wonder if it just has, call forwarding to the GRU. I wonder if it just forwards to Russian intelligence when he dials -1. I don't know. This is the least secure method of communication possible outside of, just conferencing in Vlad. Or forwarding them to the correct recipient in the GRU. I mean, this is so amazing. This is so sick and sad. And then on top of it, you've got the cancellation of food stamps for Christmas.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
If you wake up the day after Election Day 2020 and exit polls show that impeaching President Trump helped him get reelected, would you have any regrets?
No, this isn't about politics at all. This is about patriotism. It's not about partisanship. It's about honoring our oath of office. This is the first president has committed all of these things, as the constitutional experts said yesterday. Nobody ever has even come close.
Really?
Not Richard Nixon even came close to his dishonoring his own oath of office. So no, this isn't, politics is not even a consideration in this. This is about protect and defend the Constitution. I truly believe, and Naya and you too, I truly believe that the times have found us to save our democracy, defend our democracy for the people. If we didn't, we would no longer. When September 17, 1787 was the day that the Constitution was ratified, was adopted. When Benjamin Franklin came out on the steps of Independence Hall, they said, "What do we have, Mr. Franklin?" He said, "A republic." They said, "A monarchy or a republic?" He said, "A republic, if you can keep it." Well, this is a challenge to that republic, because left to his own devices, this president is taking us away from a system of checks and balances. Article 2, he said I can do whatever I want. I repeat. That's not what the Constitution says. And so for him to ignore the oversight and the questions of Congress, for him to take money appropriated by the House and the Senate in a bipartisan way for a military assistance to Ukraine, which was a country under assault, is a country under assault from Russia. Then it was 11,000, probably 13,000 people now killed by Russian aggression, and he's withholding the funds that could help them defend themselves. It's a wrong thing to do, but you don't. But in the course of doing it, the president, again, has violated his oath.
So she doesn't view this as political at all. And I know that there are people who are going to argue that this is totally political, but it isn't. It truly isn't. It's about whether or not you can have a king, whether or not the president can defy subpoenas, whether or not the president can block witnesses from testifying. And there's 12 witnesses that he's blocked, whether or not the president needs to turn over documents. And he has turned over 0 documents that have been subpoenaed by the House. Whether or not the president can insert himself into, the appropriated money, and only Congress can spend money, as you know, and use it as leverage to benefit himself. Whether or not the president can, shake down, extort an ally in a time of war for his own personal benefit. These are real constitutional questions, and that's why 3 out of 4 constitutional scholars recommend impeachment, with the only holdout being Jonathan Turley, who is just simply saying, make a better case, make a bigger case. Get those 12 witnesses to testify somehow by magic. Because Turley, he was very wrong about a lot of things. He said this was the fastest impeachment that had ever occurred. And that's just not true. This has lasted longer than Bill Clinton's impeachment, believe it or not. And this has lasted longer than Andrew Johnson's impeachment, believe it or not. Andrew Johnson fired the Secretary of War, because back then they had a law that said that you couldn't fire your cabinet members at will. You had to get permission from Congress. And so he violated the consent of Congress that was necessary to fire the Secretary of War after the Civil War. Stanton, that's the Secretary of War he fired, okay? And 3 days, he did that on a Friday. I hope this is helpful. Johnson did that on a Friday, and by Monday he was impeached. So that was 3 days. I mean, some of the stuff Turley said was just patently not true. I don't know if he was confused or if he was making an effort or if he wasn't making. I don't know what the deal is. I like Jonathan Turley. I do. He's like me. He's a contrarian, okay? He likes to argue anything, But I do believe that he's got a respect and admiration for the Constitution. I do. And so I don't want anybody to think that I'm trashing Turley. I'm not. But he was incredibly wrong about the speed of this, about not going to court. Of course they went to court. And the courts have ruled against Donald Trump repeatedly. They ruled against him in the financial documents cases. Capital One was told that they had to turn over his financial documents. Also, Mazars was told. Also, Deutsche Bank was told. Don McGahn was told that he had to testify. And this is how long we've been waiting for Don McGahn, since July, when Mueller testified. Okay, so, and we also know President Trump perjured himself because Mueller did testify to that. When Val Demings of Florida asked Mueller whether or not Donald Trump was credible in his written answers, Mueller said generally no, meaning he lied over and over again. And also this Article 2 thing, she's right. He keeps telling you he could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue. He keeps telling you he can do whatever he wants. He keeps telling... And by the way, with regard to these witnesses, you know how the Republicans are arguing, oh, he's protecting executive privilege. He hasn't exerted executive privilege over any document, over any member of his cabinet, over his White House. He has not. And the only person who could claim executive privilege is the executive. It's not like, you know, I work for Trump for 2 days and then somebody wants to question me and I say, oh, I'm claiming executive privilege because I talked to the president. Only the president can say that. I can't. You can't. No one can. So this is all bull.
Then I have an Article 2 where I have the right to do whatever I want as president, but I don't even talk about that. It's a thing called Article 2. Nobody ever mentions Article 2.
More importantly, Article 2 allows me to do whatever I want. Article 2 would have allowed me to fire him.
So it sounds
but
like
I wasn't going to fire. You know why? Because I watched Richard Nixon go around firing everybody, and that didn't work out too well. So very simply, Article 2 would allow me to do.
I could have done anything I wanted. I don't even bring it up because we don't even get there. Absolutely, I have Article 2. It gives me all of these rights at a level that nobody has ever seen before. We don't even talk about Article 2.
What is he talking about? He doesn't talk about Article 2. There he is talking about Article 2 over and over again that he says he doesn't talk about, which, by the way, in his interpretation of the Constitution, allows him to do whatever he wants. That's Richard Nixon. Well, if the president does it, that means it's not illegal. Unanimous decision from the Supreme Court. Turn over your freaking tapes. Now, even Richard Nixon allowed his White House counsel to testify. You know how we know that? Because he's on TV all the time. John Dean was Richard Nixon's counsel, and he testified. Alexander Butterfield testified. Is there a taping system in the White House? Yes, sir, there is. Hello. That led to a court, inquiry whether or not they could subpoena the tapes. The court said unanimously, the Supreme Court, of course he has to turn over the tapes. For Pete's sake, for the love of Jesus. You know why? There is no privilege you can exert if there is a crime or a fraud occurring. Guess what it's called? The crime-fraud exception. Duh.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
I'm thinking about what Republicans would say if during the Obama administration, when they issued hundreds of subpoenas to Barack Obama, if Obama had said, you know what, I'm going to wait for a court to rule on whether your subpoena is valid or not, they would have lost their minds and impeached him right there. The idea that somehow a congressional subpoena is no longer valid unless a court says it is one of the purest follies I've ever seen. There's no legal grounds for it, and constitutionally it is a complete violation of why separation of powers exists in the first place. And so, again,
But your committee did have some problems with getting the Obama administration and the Attorney General to comply, right?
Yeah, and when they did, we held them in contempt, sued them, and the court upheld our congressional authority to issue those subpoenas, which is exactly what any court will do and has continued to do throughout all of this entire process. What I wish Democrats would do a better job of is when Republicans are up there, and you heard this, almost every single Republican launch into a statement before asking a witness a question. They would go on about how there's no first-hand witnesses here. I wish that every Democrat would respond with, well, if you want a first-hand witness, I assume that you want to see Rudy sitting here, Pompeo sitting here, Bolton sitting here, and if you don't, sit down and shut up.
I actually...
Seriously. seriously, dude, if you don't want to see Mulvaney, if you don't want to see Pompeo, if you don't want to hear from Giuliani, if you don't want to hear from, Bolton, then just shut up about witnesses already. I will tell you that I really believe that there will not be 51 votes in the Senate to turn this into a circus by calling Adam Schiff and Nancy Pelosi and Joe Biden and Hunter Biden. I just don't think that there are 51, senators who are as crazy as Rudy Giuliani or Donald Trump. I just don't. I really don't. Even Matt Gaetz, is saying it is weird that Rudy Giuliani is out there tweeting that he's still after the quid pro quo, and he's tweeting that he's still extorting Ukraine into announcing an investigation into the Bidens. He's tweeting it. He's doing it. It's just very weird. It is weird. It's strange. So I just don't think that this will be the circus that Donald Trump hopes and prays it will be. Jim in St. Louis.
Yeah, Randy.
Hiya.
Hi. One statement. If hate was the motivating factor for impeachment, the Republicans would have impeached Obama on day one. It's that simple.
Well, he did have 8 years. I will say that day one, we had a Democratic House. So, but day 730 something, when we had a Republican House, that's the day they would have impeached him. But, obviously there was no scandal. He didn't violate the Constitution.
No drama, Obama.
Yeah, no drama, Obama, except for the tan pants and the beer summit.
Oh, geez, you kidding me?
Yeah. Yeah, and the fact
Good hearing from you.
And the fact that Trayvon Martin, could have been his son. Oh, what a horrible, horrible thing to do. Meanwhile, you've got this faux outrage about children. Oh my God! Listen, if Melania was upset because Pamela Karlan, the Stanford constitutional law professor, said, trying to illustrate a point, and I didn't even bring it up because this is so stupid. And of course, everything on the Republican side has to be about hatred and assigning bad intentions to Democrats instead of the Constitution, instead of the fact that we have a criminal president, instead of the fact that we have a fraud as a president, that his charity has been shut down, that his university was shut down, that $25 million in a fraud case had to be paid because his university was such a fraud, that his children are enriching themselves based on the fact that they are his children, but yet, Hunter Biden, whatever. The idea that Melania may have been upset that, the law professor invoked the name Barron to make the point that you can name a child Barron, but you can't make him a Barron in the United States. Bad joke. I'll give her that. She thinks she is funny. I mean, if you listen to her testify, she's got a sense of humor, this woman. I would like to take her class personally. She is one of the foremost constitutional experts in the United States, which is why she teaches constitutional law at Stanford, for Pete's sake. But, okay, bad joke. Well, then the Republicans take the tweet from Melania, who said, children deserve privacy and they deserve to be treated as minors, and such, care needs to be taken of our children. And they read it into the congressional record, making it a political issue. I got to say that the idea that we have had 6 dead children, last night I tweeted out the 6th child who died in Border Patrol custody. A kid who was supposed to be in Border Patrol custody for all of 72 hours was actually in Border Patrol custody for a ridiculously long time. He was diagnosed with the flu. He had 103-degree fever. And the physician's assistant that examined him said that he needed to be checked again in 2 hours or taken to the emergency room now, or if his condition got any worse. This kid was not checked on for 19 hours, and he died on videotape that ProPublica actually was able to get from, no, not Border Patrol, because Border Patrol tried to cover this up. They said they checked on him every 2 hours. A Border Patrol agent was checking on him. A Border Patrol agent is the one that found him dead in the morning. None of that is true. This 16-year-old boy who was a star student in his little indigenous hometown in Guatemala. He was a musician. He was a bright boy. He was a good boy. He had a sister that was traveling with him, an older sister, an adult sister. They were separated. He had a brother that was already here. He wanted to come here. He was asking for asylum here. They took him into custody. He had 103-degree fever. Nobody checked on him. And we know this because his cellmate on the video, another kid who was also sick, found him dead in a pool of his own blood after he vomited up blood in a toilet and called Border Patrol. You can clearly see it on the videotape. So they got the videotape from the police because Border Patrol is trying to cover it up. And it shows this little boy's last hours. It shows that Border Patrol lied about the agents doing the checks, the agents finding him, that they put a boy with a transmissible illness in a holding cell rather than in a hospital or in a clinic or any other suitable place, that they were supposed to only hold him for 72 hours. He was in his 6th day being held. And she, who was so outraged about a poorly crafted, clever, attempt at cleverness by a constitutional law professor, instead of attacking or understanding that her husband is a serial criminal, she makes the outrage about invoking the name Barron. Now, John Barron was Donald Trump's fake PR name. I don't know, he loves that name. But she tried to make it about the child, and I just wanted to remind you that the day that Melania agreed to go look at the caged children in Texas who had been separated from their mothers because of her husband's dictate, she chose to wear a jacket that said, "I really don't care, do you?" Yes, I really do care. Why don't you?
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
All right, so the 50-state challenge for the Free Speech TV Winter Pledge Drive is on, okay? And we did okay. I'll tell you which states have not ponied up. And all we need is one donor from all 50 states. Just one person could put their state on this map. See this map right here? That's the map. That's where we have listeners, okay? And that's where we have viewers, obviously. And that's where we got a pledge during the Winter Pledge Drive. So the states that are not illuminated in blue are Arkansas. We need one person in Arkansas to dial 877-378-8669 or go to freespeech.org and donate. Okay, Arkansas. D.C., what do you mean? We have nobody in D.C.? My God, every line I ever say, like 3 out of 4 constitutional scholars recommend sugarless gum for their patients who chew gum, except for Jonathan Turley. I see that reprinted by journalists. So, come on, Washington, D.C., pony up. No one in Delaware. No one in Biden's hometown. Very weird. Idaho, yeah, that's going to be a hard one. Louisiana, come on. Mississippi, Nebraska, New Hampshire. Really, New Hampshire? Nobody? New Jersey? Oh, please. Everybody knows all I do is go for the Jersey guys. Nevada, Rhode Island, Tennessee, Utah, and West Virginia. And I know we have viewers in West Virginia. I've talked to you. So today is the day. Put your state on the map. Just make a donation today by either calling 877-378-8669 and put your state on the map for the 50-state challenge. Now, here's why it's so important to me. Because if I can get one donor from West Virginia, one donor from Utah, etc., then I can unlock another $10,000 match day. I have somebody who will give up to $10,000 in matching contributions on the next match day if I can complete my 50-state challenge. So that's what that's about. So please just visit freespeech.org/donate. All right, Dana?
Hey, Randi.
Hey.
Thank you. Thanks so much for taking my call.
Mm-hmm.
the situation that we've ended up in with Trump. I mean, there's so many systemic things involved in it. In short, Hillary basically on a big level got nadered by Jill Stein and a handful of the swing states. Basically this is the same old electoral math on a cocktail napkin. Well, if we just win here, here, and here, we can run the whole thing and screw the majority of the nation. And one of the systemic fixes would be amending the Apportionment Act to expand Congress and give states that should have bigger electoral and legislative voices their voices back, but also give every state more seats in Congress. I mean, they keep raising the population threshold rather than expanding the House, and it's something that simple majorities can fix. It doesn't require amending the Constitution like dealing with the Senate or the Electoral College itself. But there's so many other things that allowing Congress states to acquire new seats as their own population grows, and not this stealing via the census every 10 years that that's been going on.
No doubt. No doubt. And the first thing is, obviously, we need to abolish the Electoral College. I mean, this is such an old, antiquated idea that the popular vote, go to hell. That this is all, mapped out in a certain way, and that the number of Congress members you have determines how many electoral votes your state, does, can cast at the end. The whole system is broken. It's absolutely. It was not designed for a population of 350 plus million people. When we talk about history, and Andrew, when we talk about Johnson's impeachment, there were only 36 senators. You know what I'm saying? Things have changed.
Yeah.
Right. So
I
would love to see a couple of amendments to our Constitution. One, public financing of elections, no more donors. Something to overturn Citizens United. And the other is the abolishment of the Electoral College. That could be a combi thing. You could do it with one amendment. But, that's a heavy lift. And anybody that is willing to say that they would, work to get that on a ballot and that they would work to move that through the House and the Senate, I will sit up and listen. Because she won. Yeah.
Well, there's the common refrain about, we need, that Republicans are like, well, we should break up California because it's too big.
But that's a Russian plot, too, to break up the sixth largest economy in the world, which is California.
Yeah. Well, the other thing, can you imagine 5 Texi if Texas, because Republicans have, one of their fantasies is breaking up, Texas and the Dakotas into smaller states so they can get more guaranteed Republican votes in the Senate.
Yeah, and we're gerrymandered enough right now so that you have Republicans who are, feeling really secure about not upholding the Constitution. And it's very strange. But that is what's giving them the security that they need to say these dumb things that they say about the Constitution doesn't matter, only Donald Trump matters.
Yeah. Well, one of the thicker facets of basically states are allowed to use prisoners, count them as residents for their federal apportionments, even though
they can't vote.
Have no right to vote.
Right.
And fixing the apportionment or amending the Apportionment Act to expand Congress, lower the population threshold to something more reasonable, like say 500,000 votes.
Yes,
from the current 711,000.
Yeah,
this is all it's very wonky, but
it's really at the base of what's wrong. Do you know what I mean? It's the foundation of how we got here.
And, creating a more open competition, if every state could automatically get new House seats as their population rose without the theft element from the census, it would also fuel, more radical immigration reform because, states are like, well, we want to grow, so we need more citizens. We need to shorten the naturalization process to, yesterday,
Yeah, I wouldn't say that out loud, though. But I get your point. That is really the foundation upon which we built this broken house, okay? Michael and Boca.
Hey, Randy.
Hi.
Okay, I'm going to preface this by saying I realize that there is no existing mechanism for what I'm about to suggest, okay?
Okay.
I know that. But what needs to happen is, such as in any other scenario where a cheater tries to cheat the game, he needs to be disqualified from participating in the game. That's what needs to happen. You don't want to be impeached, you don't want to have a trial, then he should just be disqualified from running again.
So you know what law I would like to see? I would like to see, and I've been advocating, you know, because you're a long-term listener. You've been a loyal client of mine. I really believe that if America could get a law on the books that says if you are using your official office to address the American people, you are under oath.
Correct.
You know how many problems that would solve? You know how much distrust that would remove from the news and the media argument? It would actually be a self-impeaching law where if you lied, you're gone.
But Randy, here's the twistedness, really upside down, is because people who aren't even office holders who are running that aren't white male conservatives are held to that standard you just said.
I know. But they're not forced to resign, okay?
No. But they're trying to be forced not to run. Think about it. We're talking about Hunter Biden making $600,000 a year. And they're ready for Joe Biden to just go, you know what? Never mind, I'm going home. Joe Biden, not Hunter, Joe. They want Joe to not run because Hunter made $600,000 a year. Ivanka and Jared made 52 freaking mil, Randy.
I thought it was 82.
Oh my God!
I thought it was 82 million. 82
million. Do with 82 between me and you. You know what we could do with that?
Oh, for Pete's sake! Oh my God! I mean, wow. Come on, $82 million.
$82 million.
Wait! But it's not. It's $82 million a year. Each year.
And you want me to be mad at Hunter making $600,000 in a year?
I know. Listen, Hunter Biden, you know, what he did had the appearance of stink, okay? It wasn't smart. It wasn't. But it wasn't illegal. So there's a difference here, you know? I mean, what Rudy is doing right now is illegal.
Illegal?
It's illegal. He is literally shaking down, extorting an allied country at war, a live war, active war, 13,000 dead, in exchange for an announcement of a political investigation into an American citizen. Oh my God.
Mary had a little lamb.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe it. Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
All right, so this is really telling, okay? Here's Devin Nunes on his propaganda channel on the Alternative Universe channel that, you know, just promotes these fantasy worlds that apparently either Trump and Giuliani live in or are enjoying having you live in. I don't know which it is, but Devin Nunes was asked a very straightforward question about these phone records and whether or not he ever talked to Lev Parnas. Clearly, the phone records show that he did 3 days in a row, on a conference call with Rudy Giuliani. Rudy Giuliani, Lev Parnas, Devin Nunes. And so he was just asked a direct question by Martha, and this is what he said.
You know, what did you discuss with Lev Parnas?
Well, I don't even know because I've never met Parnas, and like I filed in federal court. And so, you know, it's a great question because many people want to know, including myself. So, you know,
so you never had any phone conversation with him?
We have not been able to confirm that yet.
Why? You don't think you would remember if you had a conversation?
You have to remember, we are the House Intelligence Committee Oversight Committee, okay?
Yeah.
So we get calls from people every day,
okay.
all walks of life. I get them from all over the world, allies and people that aren't our allies.
3 days in a row.
In this case, I just don't know.
Now, were these
I have to
calls
get my
from
phone records.
Cell phones or from your office phone?
Well, we don't even know that. We don't even know that.
So you didn't have an opportunity to look at the phone numbers that are on there at all?
You did. Wait. So you sit on the House. You're the ranking member of the House Intelligence Committee, and in the House Intelligence Committee's report on impeachment for the shakedown, extortion, bribing of Ukraine by using official acts and taxpayer dollars, right, to extort them. You didn't bother to look at the phone call records that were provided, that I've looked at, that everybody who cares about it looked at. You are a subject of it, and you didn't look, and he can't confirm whether or not he talked to Lev Parnas, which he says correctly, which is fascinating. When the phone records clearly show that Rudy Giuliani, Lev Parnas, and Devin Nunes were on the phone together for long periods of time, 3 days in a row, April 10th, 11th, and 12th. Okay, so let's do corruption reform in the United States, shall we? Again, like I said, if we had a law that simply said that anybody using their official public office to address the American people was under oath, you would not have this kind of crap. You could not have an alternative set of facts. You couldn't have Devin Nunes saying he sits on the House Intelligence Committee as the ranking member and doesn't know whether or not he ever spoke to Lev Parnas 3 days in a row. This is a dilemma that the American people are in. Nobody understands what the truth is anymore. The disinformation campaign, the alternative universe of a Putin propaganda machine, the alternative universe of propaganda in and of itself. I mean, propaganda works. That's why it's deployed by, countries that want to have complete control over its people, where they don't encourage a free and fair exchange of ideas, where they want a autocratic leader, where they want a corrupt government. They actually invented propaganda as a means to control the unwashed masses, confuse you so much that you can't even figure your way out of the paper bag. That was sick. That was just so twisted. I heard him say, I can't confirm whether or not I talked to him. I can't. What? Jim in Huntington Beach.
Hey, Randy. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday, you bastard.
Happy Friday. I've called you a few times over the years. I just always, first of all, I always thank you, for the hard work you do. I thank you for letting me basically kick all my friends' asses in arguments.
Oh, you're welcome.
I swear, being informed, and ever since back in the Air America days, it's been you. I listened to Rachel before she was ever even on cable TV, when she just had that 1 hour at nighttime. And Stephanie, you've been my three that through all these people that have come and gone. You
have good taste.
And thank you very much. And I have incorporated two other ladies into my diet of media, and it's the two girls from Gaslight Nation. Their name, one of it is like Andrea Chalupa. It's the sister of the girl that you keep hearing, brought up in this whole thing.
Right.
And Sarah Kenzinger. But I think what they've kind of drilled into my head is that in a time of a transition from democracy to autocracy, we live in a time of intense anxiety and confusion. And the level of gaslighting that's going on with people, and not only from the government, but then you get it from your friends and your neighbors and just people that you're speaking with. So I thank you for your work, and I would suggest to anybody that if you've done your Randy homework and you're looking for something else, you may want to check out that podcast.
Yeah, and the homework is.
And I'll just leave you. I'm sorry, and just with one other thing is, I need to hear this from you. It's like if it isn't on TV, it didn't happen. Well, if I don't hear somebody say this, and I haven't heard anybody ever talk about. When you talk about all the problems with the Electoral College, for me, it seems like, one of the reasons is it leaves us particularly vulnerable to somebody meddling, because it almost gives them don't worry about hacking every, system. Just here, you just got to get your thumb on the scales in these swing districts and these. So, like the Electoral College, to me, it almost serves as if somebody were to have like a criminal intent. it gives them a blueprint of where to focus their efforts, and it's just crazy to me.
Yeah,
I haven't heard anybody talk about that. You know.
Oh well,
I'll shut up now.
That's okay. It's a nonsensical system. It defeats majority rule, which is what democracy is supposed to be based on. And then obviously, you have states that are so gerrymandered that this has nothing to do with the presidential election, but it has everything to do with who is the who legislates in those states, or who they send to Congress. And the idea that the gerrymandering, the voter suppression efforts are so intense in a free country that people aren't encouraged to vote, but rather told not to vote or confused about who to vote. It's so self-defeating. I don't know why anybody expects a different result from the system that we built this house on. Of course, the house is going to implode. It can't stand when the system that the design of the house is bad. Let's put it that way. When the foundation is cracked, the house is going to crumble. And we have a cracked foundation. Rich in Kansas City. Missouri or Kansas?
Missouri.
Okay.
Yes, I was just calling on the Hunter Biden issue.
Okay.
And basically what I was wanting to say is that nobody really cares about, I don't think anybody's concerned about the money that Hunter Biden made while he was working for Burisma. I think people are more concerned on how Joe Biden was bragging on at the Council of Foreign Relations on how he withheld money if they didn't fire the prosecutors that were investigating his son.
Yeah, but here's the fact about that, okay? The prosecutor...
I mean, people can see it on the video if they want to.
I know. I have it, and I could play it. But what's true about that situation is that prosecutor was voted out. He wasn't fired. He was voted out by the RADA, which is their Congress. It's like, right? So that happened, and then and then all the the whole international Western democracy, all the international Western democracies, from the IMF to the EU, all the NATO allies, they were pressuring Ukraine to take that vote. So it wasn't like,
but they're trying to
I understand what Joe Biden said, but
Biden is guilty.
Well, he's not guilty of anything. Nepotism is nepotism. I'll just say this: nepotism always.
Watch the video, Council on Foreign Relations.
I'll play it. I will play it.
Please do. I would love to hear that.
I will
think
play
it would
it.
put things in a different perspective.
No problem. We will play it for you. About loan guarantees, but the whole world was pressuring Ukraine to do that.
All things Randy at RandyRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
All right, Nick in Mississippi.
Hi there. How you doing?
Hello.
Hello there. How you doing?
Good.
I have a prediction for you.
All right.
Well, first of all, if you'll notice, the Senate Republicans have been very, very quiet. So my thinking is deals have already been made, and this is what's going to happen. They're going to remove Donald Trump. Now, of course, that's going to make Mike Pence the president. But you know who's going to be the vice president? Mitt Romney.
I was going to say Mitt Romney, yeah.
Yeah. Mitt Romney.
Well,
he's the only one that they could bring in to bring some sort of air of legitimacy to that White House. Right?
I personally do not think Mitt Romney wants to be vice president. I think Mitt Romney, if anything, wants to be president. And if the president gets damaged so badly in the Senate trial, meaning Bolton shows up and testifies, Mulvaney, the court orders him to testify, there's no more, wiggle room, that Giuliani is ordered to testify by the court. The Supreme Court actually steps in and it expedites it and says there is no immunity that's been exerted, blah, blah, blah. Okay, and so if the evidence becomes so bad and the president becomes so obviously a criminal in the eyes of most Americans or 80% of America, okay? I think Mitt Romney runs for president. I think Mitt Romney literally runs for president.
Yeah. Well, like I said, that's the thing that I'm thinking, because he's going to get removed.
You believe that?
Because, oh yes.
So
because,
let me ask you this: I mean, I don't know how deep in the weeds you want to get with me, and it's up to you. But
sure.
What 20 Republicans can you find that will vote to remove him right now? I mean, I can name 5.
Well, I cannot give you that answer because I'm not familiar with who all they are.
Right.
But I just feel they're being very, very quiet. And I'm coming from the angle that everybody up there knows that now if they let Trump get away, they all are going to go down in flames next year, no matter what the
verdict,
the propaganda station says.
Oh.
Okay. They're going to go down.
Well, this is the end of the look. Donald Trump, it's so funny. It's not funny. It's kind of sad in a weird way. But when Donald Trump was running, okay, I didn't start this show until after the 2016 primary was over. And it really,
I remember, yeah.
It worked out well for me because I don't like, getting involved in primaries. I always tell everybody, fall in love during the primary. Whoever you want to vote for, you have this big, huge choice, which is so rare in America. We get 350 million people and we get 2 choices for president every 4 years. It's ridiculous. Okay, that's sad. So I always, stay out of the primary. Okay, but I had cancer, so that kind of, delayed the launch of the show, whatever. But when I finally launched the show, obviously Donald Trump was the nominee, and I kept saying over and over again, that he was going to win, and that he was going to be the most dangerous president in the history of the United States, and that he was a fraud and a criminal and a fascist.
Yes.
Right?
I said the same thing.
And
I've said the same thing.
And so I have a funny feeling that this time around people are going to see that that's what he is. And I think that, and while he was running, he literally destroyed the Republican Party. I mean, he literally destroyed it. And the evidence for that is really obvious. So they don't care about deficits anymore, right? They don't care.
That's
right. And they don't care about family values anymore. And they don't care. They care about absolutely nothing that was the core. They don't care about communism. They don't care about the evil empire. They don't care. Everything that they stood for, the good and the bad, everything that they stood for has gone south. Okay, they're just.
No, the Democrats have really taken over their old mantra.
So
in terms of being patriotic and so forth,
right.
I think Nancy Pelosi is playing it brilliantly.
Yeah, but that said, Trump destroyed the Republican Party and turned it into the party of Trump. And that's what I was trying to get Republicans to understand, that they were not voting for a Republican Party. It didn't exist anymore. It was replaced with the party of Trump, which is a cruel and unusual party that pardons war criminals, that lets Saudi Arabians, dismember American green card holders, and that literally, praises Kim Jong-un, that praises Erdogan, who is a dictator, right? And now I think what's going to be left after the trial in the Senate is no more Republican Party, not even a party of Trump, because he's going to destroy that party too. So there won't be any balance in this country for Democrats. Democrats are going to be the only ones talking any sense at the end of this.
Yes.
So I don't think I don't think he can win. I just don't.
No. I think he's going to get removed. One more thing.
Well, I don't know that he'll be removed again unless we can identify 20 Republican senators. And that will not be something to look for even until after evidence is presented. Because remember, we haven't heard from 12 people that we need to hear from. We haven't heard from Pompeo, Giuliani, Mulvaney, haven't heard from Bolton, Kupperman, who is Bolton's dad.
Nobody.
Right. And so as the evidence rolls out, that's when we'll know whether or not, there are 20 Republicans. I can tell you right now that there are at least 5 GOP Republicans that are ready to remove him now. Like right now. Listen.
Have you spoken to a single Republican colleague in the Senate who's even considering voting for impeachment? Yes.
You have?
Yes.
Okay.
Would you like to name him?
No.
How many? How many?
It's a small list on one hand.
Right.
And by the way, I don't buy this secret ballot thing. Like, I mean, if there was a secret ballot, there'd still be only a handful of them that would vote to impeach this guy.
You think at the maximum right now that, given what we currently know, like maybe there's about 5 Republicans who might vote to remove the president at max?
I think that's probably right. Okay.
So right now, see, they put a negative spin on it this morning on the Morning Joe. I put a positive spin on it because I'm a sunny optimist. And so if right now, before hearing from Mulvaney, before hearing from Bolton, before hearing from Kupperman, before hearing from Don McGahn, before hearing from who else is on that list? Pence, right? Before any testimony has been given from these key players, there are 5 already Republican senators who are willing to vote to remove the president. I think that number will only grow once evidence starts to be presented in this matter. If Giuliani had to testify, oh my God! I mean, this would be that it would be a circus day, but it would be so telling. If the documents, remember that Sondland and Volker and Tim Morrison and those guys who did testify, they were not allowed their documents, right? The State Department held on to all the documents because the Trump administration's produced 0 documents that have been subpoenaed, right? There's a lot to see.
Clear. Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
Apologies to my guy in St. Louis, Missouri. I was looking for the clip. I found it. I said I'd play it for you, and here it is. This is Joe Biden at the Council on Foreign Relations, sitting there talking about the loan guarantees that he had been to Ukraine 10 or 12 times and constantly asked Poroshenko, the previous corrupt president, to get rid of the prosecutor because the prosecutor was not prosecuting corruption. Okay? This had the backing of the IMF, the International Monetary Fund. This had the backing of NATO allies, all of them. And this had the backing of the entire civilized Western democracies. I mean, the whole world wanted Ukraine to move into the West and not to move into Russia. To go that way. And one of the things that was required of Ukraine were very serious anti-corruption methods, anti-corruption activities, anti-corruption steps. And they did not feel, the world did not feel that Ukraine was meeting those benchmarks. So this is what Joe Biden said.
And I went over, I guess, the 12th, 13th time to Kyiv, and I was supposed to announce that there was another $1 billion loan guarantee. And I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. So they said they were walking out to press conference. I said, no, I'm not going to, or we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said. I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion. I said, you're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a bitch. Got fired. And they put in place someone who was solid at the time.
Okay, so that is just not true. And that's the sad part of this, is that it didn't happen that way. So what happened was that there was a cancer of corruption that Biden explained to Ukraine in 2015. This is when this all happened. And so like his 13th trip to Kiev, he told him there's a cancer of corruption in your country. He made a speech to Parliament. It's Googleable. You can look it up. And he said in the speech, the office of the general prosecutor desperately needs reform. And Viktor Shokin was removed 3 months later. 3 months later. And he was voted out. So, this is Biden being Biden, and this is Biden, making gaffes, and Biden does that. And, that's the tough part of this. Now, is it wrong that his son, Hunter, who left the Navy, and it doesn't look like voluntarily, had gone over to Ukraine and worked for this guy Zolochevsky, who was really dirty, and this company Burisma? I don't like it. I never liked it. I don't think, but if it was illegal, then Jared Kushner, who, in spite of law enforcement's recommendations, in spite of the intelligence community's recommendations, Ivanka Trump, who, in spite of law enforcement recommendations and in spite of the intelligence community's recommendation, was given security clearances so that they could be on Air Force One and included in all kinds of trade information, and that they are now enriching themselves to the tune of $82 billion a year. I mean, if nepotism is wrong for Biden, then it's wrong for Trump. If nepotism is wrong for Giuliani, why are his kids working in the Trump administration? I mean, look, it's wrong. But is it illegal? No. What did Trump do? Well, that was called extortion and bribery. That's illegal. That's illegal. But, you know, you can certainly raise questions about Hunter Biden's judgment in joining the board of Burisma, and I'm not going to push back on that. I think no sane person would push back on that. But this false story that people tell about Burisma and about Joe Biden, Lee Zeldin, who's a Republican he tried to make this case on CNN one day, and it just fell apart.
With the vice president under the direction of, he said, the president of the United States, threatening to withhold $1 billion if they don't stop prosecuting his son's company.
No,
who's
that
paying
was
$50,000
not why
a month.
he did it. You're making that part up, Congressman.
No, I'm not.
He did it because no. You are no.
I'm saying
that was never said.
trying to get rid of the
not
state's
true.
prosecutor.
No, I'm not. You are saying that that's why he did it, and that is false. There's no evidence that indicates that in any way.
Okay, what I'm saying is that he was threatening, he was demanding that the state prosecutor be fired.
That's right, because
that was the state prosecutor
along
who
with
was
every other country
investigating
in the
his son's
Western
company.
Hemisphere and all of our allies thought that this guy was a corrupt guy.
So what? We replace
Joe
him
Biden
with someone
stood up
who
and
is
said it, and then proudly took credit for it. That is what we know.
He was soft on
those are the
corruption,
facts.
and he was replaced by somebody else soft on corruption. Except the person he was replaced with soft on corruption was someone who is not the individual who was prosecuting his son's company.
Okay. No. Again, but I'm saying that investigation was already dormant under the guy that you're saying he wanted to get rid of because of something that he wasn't doing. So that doesn't add up either.
Okay. I'm just saying there are a lot of people who are sticking up for the vice president, sticking up for his son, providing cover for it, saying it's a dead story. There's nothing to talk about here. But instead, we should file articles of impeachment against the president of the United States for a whistleblower complaint we haven't read, based off of someone who doesn't have any first-hand knowledge of what they're alleging.
Okay, so that's Lee Zeldin. It isn't true. That's the problem. It isn't true. Yes, Joe Biden took credit for something that the entire world was pressuring Ukraine to take a vote to do. Okay? And the reason why was because Shokin was not prosecuting Burisma. It's the exact opposite. He was not prosecuting Burisma. And by the way, Shokin was replaced with Lutsenko, and Lutsenko was Poroshenko's freaking driver. That's how corrupt Poroshenko was. Okay? So then this happened, yesterday, I guess, in Iowa. Biden is on the campaign trail in Iowa, and he's doing no malarkey tour or whatever. And he was confronted by a man who is repeating this crap that Joe Biden got his son a job at a gas company, and that is not true either, and it deteriorated into a screaming match. Oh, and I have to say, while we're still on this subject of Hunter, there's another lie that Donald Trump likes to tell about Hunter Biden having to do with China. So I just want you to to hear the truth. You can look it up. It's in my homework. It's just go to RandiRhodes.com, click on homework. It's free. I don't charge you anything. I just aggregate people's journalism. So Donald Trump is out on the trail saying that Hunter Biden took $1.5 billion out of China. That never happened, okay? Hunter Biden started he was advising clients of his about whether or not to invest in a Chinese management company. He had a 10% minority interest in that company, they didn't even raise more than $5 million, okay? They raised $4.2 million for this company, for this Chinese investment company. I don't know where in the world the president gets this $1.5 billion number that Hunter Biden walked away. It's just false. It's just another lie.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
All right, I don't have the update for today, but I will tell you what I'm looking for. I will tell you what I need, what I want, what I must have, okay? I need a donor in Arkansas, a donor in Delaware, Idaho, one from Louisiana and Mississippi. We just spoke to Mississippi. One in Nebraska, one in New Hampshire, one in New Jersey, in Nevada. I need a Rhode Islander, a Tennessean, someone from Utah, and a West Virginian. To put your state on the map by visiting freespeech.org/donate for the Winter Pledge Drive, okay? 877-378-8669 is a number you can call and you can make a pledge. But especially from Arkansas, Washington, D.C., Delaware, Idaho, Louisiana, Mississippi, Nebraska, New Hampshire, New Jersey, Nevada, Rhode Island, Tennessee, Utah, West Virginia. If I called your state, you are totally beloved right now. Okay, because if we can unlock all the 50 states, you can see right there. Oh, see, everything's backwards. You can see right there that those are the blue states are the states that we have donors. We have people who listen, view, watch Free Speech TV, love Free Speech TV, and donate. Those white states are the ones that we are missing. And if I can get all 50 states to represent with a donor, then I can unlock a giving god or goddess. Her identity is not known to me. But I can unlock a giving god or goddess who will pledge $10,000 in matching contributions, okay? So that's a beautiful thing. So that's what we're doing. It's called the 50-State Challenge. All right, back to the issue of Biden. All right, so nepotism is not something I like. I don't think anybody's son or daughter ought to get a position, especially in the senior ranks of the White House, the cabinet, law enforcement, the Supreme Court. Now, you got to remember, Don McGahn was promoting his friend Kavanaugh to the Supreme Court. So there's that. But, we talked about Jared. We talked about Ivanka over the objection of the intelligence communities and the law enforcement community saying that they should not have security clearances, getting them anyway. Well, the law was not broken because the president is the final arbiter of who gets security clearances. So it wasn't illegal, but it was disgusting. Now, Don McGahn's wife, Shannon McGahn, was hired as a policy advisor to the Secretary of the Treasury, Steve Mnuchin. Rudy Giuliani's son, Andrew Giuliani, works in the White House Office of Public Liaison as an associate director after his professional golfing career petered out. I mean, if you want to go into this, there's 20 freaking families that Donald Trump has given jobs to, like Betsy DeVos's family. Her whole freaking family, everybody from Eric Prince to Betsy DeVos, okay, their brother and sister. Dick DeVos, Betsy's husband, he works at the Federal Aviation Administration's Management Advisory Council. Pamela DeVos, who is Betsy DeVos's sister-in-law, she landed a spot on the advisory board for the JFK Center for Performing Arts. And, of course, Eric Prince, who runs a mercenary company and got $560 billion in private paramilitary funding from the UAE, brokered a back channel between Russia and the Trump administration in the Seychelles with a pedophile named George Nader, who was just indicted yesterday on 53 criminal counts. And not just for the pedophilia. He's already in jail for the pedophilia. So, let's just stop pretending that only Joe Biden's son was, promote or given a chance to, use his family's name. Now, Biden did not lobby for this to happen. And the reason why Biden was lobbying Ukraine to get rid of the prosecutor along with the rest of the Western world is because they were not prosecuting corruption. Maria Yovanovitch, who Giuliani campaigned like crazy to get rid of, who Donald Trump mentioned on The Perfect Call as being bad news, she was like the superhero of anti-corruption efforts in Ukraine because as an ambassador, her job was to attract foreign investment into Ukraine. And the only way she could attract foreign investment into Ukraine by legitimate business people in the West was to meet the benchmarks set for anti-corruption efforts, right? And so that is why Giuliani wanted her out of the way, because he wanted to add corruption. And now he's dealing with that same corrupt prosecutor, Viktor Shokin. He's dealing with Poroshenko. He's dealing with Lutsenko. These are the dirty prosecutors that we and the whole Western world lobbied to get rid of. And it deteriorated in Iowa. I felt really bad for Joe Biden. Because, talking about your kids is never easy, but of course you can't even invoke Barron in a clever turn of phrase, right? You can't do that while, immigrant children are dying in her husband's custody. Of course, faux outrage. But watch this.
And he's no backbone, we know that for that. But you, on the other hand, sent your son over there to get a job and work for a gas company that he had no experience with gas or nothing, in order to get access to the public, for the president. So you're selling access to the president just like he does. So
You're a damn liar, man. That's not true. And no one has ever said that? No one has heard that?
I see it on the TV.
You see it on the TV? No, I know you do. And by the way, that's why I'm not sedentary. I get up and no, let him go. Let him go. Look, the reason I'm running is because I've been around a long time and I know more than most people know. And I can get things done. That's why I'm running. And you want to check my shape on, let's do push-ups together here, man. Let's run. Let's do whatever you want to do. Let's take a nice detail. Number two, no one has said my son has done anything wrong, and I did not on any occasion. And no one has ever said it. Not
I didn't say you were doing anything wrong.
You said I set up my son to work in an oil company. Isn't that what you said? Get your words straight, Jack.
That's what I hear on MSNBC.
You don't hear that on MSNBC. You did not hear that at all. What you heard, look, okay, I'm not going to get in an argument with you, man.
No, I don't want to.
Well, yeah, you do, but look, here's the deal. Here's the deal.
It looks like you don't have any more backbone than Trump does.
Yeah, that was bad. But you know what? I think Biden, had every right to knock down this conspiracy theory. I mean, the amount of nepotism in the Trump administration is legion, and it's wrong. And anybody who trades on their parents or their aunt or their uncle or their cousin or who is in government and has a big name and they use it to get a job they're not qualified for, that's wrong. It's not illegal. So there you have it. All right, Homer in Denver.
Hey, Randy.
Hi, Homer.
Long time. Love you, girl. How you doing?
Good.
How you doing? Good.
I toss my hair back, check my nails. Baby, how you doing?
There you go.
There you go.
That's the way to play.
Yeah.
That's the way. I'm actually in Missouri, so I'm going to try to make this state blue, by the way, right now. But I live in Denver as well. Anyway, I wanted to thank you for being a beacon, like Paul Revere, ringing that bell when we need to fight, when we need to, get the F out.
You want me on that wall. But, you need me on that wall.
Hey, I got a quick question for you today.
Yep. Okay.
And it's a really happy Impeachment Friday, by the way.
Yes.
Going on with the impeachment.
I think by next week, by next week we will have an impeachment vote. I believe that would be, I know they're working through the weekend. Before I forget, you know what's going to happen on Monday, don't you?
I don't.
Oh, Monday, The Inspector General's report about whether or not the Russia counterintelligence investigation was opened based on, true facts will come out, and it's going to just implode the entire Republican conspiracy theory that Strzok and Page, that they did it, and it was an insurance policy. And then next Wednesday, the 11th, he will testify. Michael Horowitz will be testifying about the findings. So
beautiful.
Yeah.
Happy Hanukkah.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
That'd be a great Christmas present, Hanukkah present for us all.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that
So wait, we're running out of time. What was your question?
Yeah, I know. I get that. My question is, I want to know what's going to happen in the Senate. How does that work? How does the impeachment work in the Senate?
Okay,
that's my question.
So
I can wait till next week. Yeah.
That would be a great cliffhanger. So how it works in the Senate is, have a great weekend. No. They're going to negotiate it, Schumer and McConnell. But remember, the Republicans control, so they can really set the rules. However, the Supreme Court, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court must preside. Whether or not there is a trial, I would say pretty much yes, because there's Senate rules in place right now. So here you go.